The longest sword fight in cinema reportedly isn't very good, so let's talk about Scaramouche instead. Scaramouche held for a long time the title of longest sword fight in cinema, and even when competitors emerged, like Revenge of the Sith, does it really count? I mean, they do a lot of talking. Scaramouche remained a classic. It's still name-checked in basically every article about the best sword fights in cinema, and for good reason. Now, in 2021, a movie came out in which there was a single-take sword fight which lasted over an hour. Crazy Samurai 400 vs 1 was, however, crazy mediocre, by all accounts. Its reach exceeded its grasp, but never mind. We're talking about Scaramouche today, and the 15 or so minutes worth of sword fighting we'll be covering is plenty. This script is 10 pages long. Especially since the final fight is over 6 minutes all by itself, and 6 minutes is a long time in cinema, particularly for a fight scene, particularly for a one-on-one sword duel. For comparison, the Cliffs of Insanity fight in The Princess Bride between Inigo and Wesley, it's 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And that was a fair amount of time, no?
Please understand, I hold you in the highest respect.
I'm Jill Bearup, and I'm an actor combatant, which means that I have taken exams in how to pretend to fight people for stage and screen. It's a bit of an odd hobby, I'll admit, but very fun. Today's topic, as I said, is Scaramouche. We are going to spoil the ending, but only at the end of the fight analysis, and the plot, it goeth thusly. Welcome to only just pre-revolutionary France, where the Marquis de Maynes, Queen Marie Antoinette's cousin, is whiling away his time murdering other aristocrats in duels. Marie Antoinette is angry at him because there are unsavory types about who write seditious pamphlets, and in such troubled times the nobility need to stick together. So she informs him that A, he should stop dueling nobles, and B, he should get married. Look, here's a nice girl called Aline with a lot of powder in her hair. She's my protégée. Isn't she pretty? Meanwhile, André Moreau, the illegitimate child of some anonymous noble who has been bankrolling André's life to this point, is having an interesting week. Not the good kind of interesting. His actress girlfriend Lenore is annoyed that he hasn't married her yet, and his best friend Philippe turns out to be the one who is writing seditious pamphlets, so Philippe needs to go into hiding, which requires money, but Moreau's mysterious benefactor has cut him off, leaving them in a sticky situation. So Moreau threatens his lawyer until the man reveals that the money has been coming from the Count de Gavrillac. Off he and Philippe go to Gavrillac's house, and on the way André meets Aline, and falls madly in love with her at first sight. But oh no, she is Gavrillac's legitimate daughter, and thus they're half-siblings. And Gavrillac has just died, so he won't be sending any more money anyway. Like I said, Moreau is having a bad week, and it's only going to get worse. The Marquis de Maynes' men find Philippe and André and are about to arrest Philippe when Dumaine intervenes, so he can goad Philippe into a duel and kill him. Obviously. André tries to fight him and fails. Equally obviously. There are 3 fights between Dumaine and André Moreau, and we'll be talking about all of them, but suffice it to say that this first one is short and extremely one-sided. Regardless, André manages to escape, with the promise that Dumaine will die by his hand in a sword duel.
You're gonna die as he died, by the sword. You'll be driven back step by step until you stand helpless as he did. And then I, André Moreau, will kill you as you killed him.
Oh, and Dumaine is now also Aline's guardian after the death of her father? Really rubbing salt in the wound there. Lovely. Moreau ends up back with Lenore's players posing as Scaramouche, finds out who Dumaine's teacher is from the real Scaramouche, and then montages his way through learning the sword early in the morning and playing Scaramouche the rest of the time. Oh, and having a bizarrely violent relationship with Lenore over here. Yeah, it's a thing. Unfortunately, after about 6 weeks of this, he is discovered by Dumaine, and though he's able to keep his teacher safe...
Yeah, take your money, idiot. Ask more questions next time.
It's time for a rematch, which goes better, but not what we'd call well. Dumaine is about to run André through when Aline appears and André manages to escape. There follows a scene where Dumaine confesses that yes, it was just duty to start off with, but that he really has fallen in love with Aline, and honestly, it's superb. These little touches of humanity that we give the antagonist, it's wonderful. Anyway, André finds out that his teacher's teacher is in Paris, and luckily, that's just where the travelling players are supposed to be going. And when they get to Paris, he learns that Dumaine is there as well, preparing for his wedding with Aline. Lenore has noticed that André is out for revenge, and she doesn't want him to die, so she goes to meet Aline, and together they scheme to keep him safe.
Why do you lie to me, André? Why don't you tell me what you feel?
Because he's not a Supernatural fan, incest is not a turn-on. I mean, I know you don't know that you're siblings, but that's why. I'm just saying. Never mind that, you need to distract your fiancé. But circumstances are conspiring because the people's politicians are in need of a commoner who can hold his own with a sword. And if Deputy Designate Andre Moreau sits in the assembly, well, Domaine is obliged to be there, right, as a member of the nobility? But the ladies are continuing to conspire to keep them apart.
The Marquis de Maynes is absent from the assembly, having been ordered by Her Majesty the Queen to inspect the orphanage for young ladies of noble birth at Saint-Germain-en-Laye.
In the meantime, Andre is making his way quite handily through members of the aristocracy, but to be fair, he doesn't kill them all. After he enters Domaine's mate here, Domaine is ready to go and stab him in the heart, but Aline distracts him by saying, "No, you promised to take me out. Let's go to the theatre." Unfortunately, he takes her to the theatre where Andre is playing Scaramouche. Whoops.
Scaramouche, you have given your last performance.
They fight for over 6 minutes, and Andre Moreau is now good enough to be a match for Domaine. What's going to happen? Let's get into it. Before we start, stage combat notation for attacks and parries is not the same as fencing notation, so may I introduce you to Count Pierce Not Deface, who has numbers on him which corresponds to when a right-handed person attacks a target area, or if you, as a right-handed person, defend a target area. I'm not going to tell you about every single attack, or even most of them, that would take hours, but they may come in handy soon. So let us start, briefly, with Domaine's introduction. The movie begins after the credits, and also lots of loudly galloping horses so that people can find their seats if they came in late, with the Marquis Domaine having a duel. His first scene sets the tone for the film. I mean, we have blood effects when he slashes this guy's waistcoat. I know. Regardless, what do we learn in this opening scene? We learn that Domaine is in his happy place when he's trying to stab people. Look at him. He's also really, really good at it. When he sees the soldiers, he immediately finishes the fight as quickly as he can before dancing over to this other guy to try and fight him before they arrive. Now, this is classic Golden Age of Hollywood style sword fighting, which means it's very fencing-y, whichever you like. And as well as that, the fighting is given space to breathe in the edit. I mean, these are just random introductory fights to tell us something about the character, but we still have 8 moves a shot. At least. Could you imagine that sort of thing happening in a modern film? Just 8 moves per shot as a matter of course. Assuming that IMDb has these things right, we have Fred Cavins as the fight director and Jean Harriman for some stunts. And I was going to make a joke that sounds Belgian, because Fred Cavins, who was basically the father of Golden Age Hollywood sword fighting, was trained in Belgium as a fencer, but turns out Jean Harriman is actually Belgian, so that's not a very funny That's not a very funny joke, it's just true. And not only do we establish Domaine as deadly by showing these 2 fights, it also gives us an Easter egg for the next time we watch the film, because in the next scene, Marie Antoinette complains that he fought 3 people yesterday.
I only scratched him a little.
They say you crippled him for life, and 5 minutes later you killed the Baron Marblot.
An unfortunate accident, he ran into my sword.
And that brilliant conversationist, the Duc de Raymond.
And if you go back and look, there's that first guy. We didn't even see him fight that guy, and he crippled him for life, before going on to this second guy who he killed, and then the third guy, well, he's fine. He's probably fine. From these opening scenes, we learn that Domaine is very, very good at dueling, and also he's in love with his cousin. Why do we have 2 random incest-related subplots in this movie? I'm just wondering, okay? However, in spite of being in love with his cousin, when he's introduced to Aline, he is kind of taken with her, and why would you not be? She's pretty, and also she's funny.
I have read the plays of Corneille, Racine, Molière, and Voltaire. I do not understand a word of them.
If you've never seen the film before, you might think that this character we're introducing is the protagonist. But no, the protagonist is Andre Moreau, who appears not with violence, but with thwarted romance. He rocks up to a group of traveling players, breaks into a woman's caravan, and whoops, turns out it's the wrong caravan. He clearly has a tempestuous relationship with Lenore, but he does agree to marry her when he finds out that's what she wants. At least until he finds out Philippe is in trouble, and then, you know, it's bros before gardening implements, okay? But bros before gardening implements means that he travels to meet the Count de Gaverlac, which means he meets Aline, which means we get into this tavern where Domaine's men find Marcus Brutus, which means... And Domaine's fatal duel with Philippe, aka Marcus Brutus, is our second sword fighting scene. And please note that Domaine doesn't even bother to take his coat off. Philippe attacks first, 4, 3, 5, 2, and Domaine is happy to let him do so. When Andre is arguing with the soldier, we can see Philippe struggling in the background. There's a 5, a 2, and then a 3, and then something else which we'll come back to in a second. But we can already tell that Philippe is not doing so well, and we can tell that because those first 6 attacks, even if 2 of them are just repeated, they're all direct attacks. I have this problem when doing fencing as opposed to stage combat, because the need to be told what I'm supposed to do is kind of an ingrained habit at this point, because obviously in stage combat, you don't make a move unless it's in the choreography, for everybody's safety. Philippe, though, he's meant to be fencing, and when he attacks and he's parried, he doesn't think, what should I do next? He has to come up with a new plan. And when he tries to think ahead, oh, I will make this attack and he will try and parry, maybe I should go around, then he falls over. Philippe immediately gets up again, though, and heads towards Dumaine, because this is another thing that we should note about Dumaine. He likes to play with his food. They're off screen for a while as Andre is arguing with the soldier, but then we see Philippe retreating back into frame, and hey, after a 4 and a 2, we get what may be an attempt at an envelopement. An envelopement is when you make a complete circle around your opponent's blade without losing contact with it. Either way, it doesn't work, and Philippe finds himself pinned to a tree with Dumaine's foot on his sword. For those of you thinking, why isn't his foot getting cut? With this kind of sword, I mean, this is an épée blade, but imagine for me, only this last section would actually be sharp. Still, that's enough to cut Philippe's shirt and his hand, and Dumaine really looks like he's enjoying himself, huh? Philippe now aims for some cunning. Ooh, look at my big swingy sword motions, aha! Attacking 1, 2, 5, 1, then 5 and 5, both of which are avoided rather than being parried. Look at Dumaine smiling, and when Dumaine attacks, you'll notice he does the exact opposite of these wild sword swings. His point is always towards his opponent, and it just keeps moving closer. Philippe tries to use his environment to get away, but Dumaine uses it to his advantage. See the previous use of the tree. Philippe gets his sword trapped again and gets cut again. But the outcome of this fight was a foregone conclusion. No? We see Philippe and Dumaine fighting in the background again, and we've seen the wild, desperate quality of Philippe's sword work, so please note how neat and precise Dumaine is by contrast. All actions in fencing are made with the fingers, not with the wrist. While Philippe has tidier motions in this section, it's not enough to save him.
Philippe, Andre,
And Dumaine hardly even looks out of breath. Andre, enraged, picks up his fallen friend's sword and tries to use it like a club, but obviously that's not going to work, is it? I mean, the most natural motion when you pick up any long weapon is that kind of diagonal motion, but it's a sword, it's pointy at the end, that's not really going to be terribly effective. It looks really dramatic, and some knife sharpening ensues, that is to say lots of diagonal overhead cuts, which look great and don't require a lot of skill, but they don't really do anything, and even when Andre thinks to attack low, he is immediately disarmed, which is something of a recurring motif. The sword is like a bird in your hand. If you hold it too tightly, you will crush it. If you hold it too lightly, it will fly away. My stage combat teacher, Duncan Woodruff, still quotes that all the time. I'm just saying.
Pick it up. You shall die with it in your hand.
Anyway, Andre grabs the pistol and is able to make his escape, but he doesn't want to use the pistol to kill Dumaine. No, he must die by the sword, just like Philippe did. Revenge. To enact this revenge, Andre hies off to Dumaine's teacher, and there is a montage. We see Andre practicing, developing technique, and he's improving, but he's still not holding the sword properly. And after this second sword drop, oh no, it's Dumaine. Time for a rematch. At least Dumaine troubles to take his coat off for this match, I suppose, and he's not stupid enough to underestimate Andre, even though he beat him very easily last time. After all, he knows he's been taking lessons, right? So a 5 from Dumaine, a couple of sword touches as they feel each other out, and then Dumaine comes in with a beat, attack 2, and Andre, well, he comes back with an attack for 3, but not just an attack, no, a compound attack. He avoids the first parry by circling, and then he is caught by the second parry. Technique! Look at that! And a lunge and everything. We get some more byplay, there's actual back and forth, but you can tell that Andre, while holding his own, is clearly struggling. The complex movements which come so naturally to Dumaine after years of practice are still not yet ingrained for our hero. And immediately Andre gets his arm scratched, which was previously our sign that Dumaine was going to take things seriously and finish them off soon. And so it proves here. Andre is pushed back up the stairs, and Dumaine decides to stick the emotional knife in at the same time.
You'd at least be a match for our young friend Marcus Brutus if he were still with us.
Which, of course, is met with Andre losing control.
You might even defeat him, but know the Maynes, is perhaps another matter.
More blood, Andre falling backwards off the stairs. Oh, the drama. Andre tries to take the offensive again, but no. More compound attacks from Dumaine up the stairs, and now he's toying with Andre, obviously, until the stab. Which misses, as it turns out. Look at these beautiful long phrases, though, and how we change up the shot to get in close for a particularly dramatic moment, but mostly we just back off and let the performers do their thing. And now we're in a much fancier space, clearly one that's not really meant to be fought in, and while Andre is holding Dumaine off, we can see that Dumaine has taken his measure and found him wanting. So more dramatic sword sweeps to keep us engaged, some non-linear movement, and then we're back to quipping.
You see, it takes time to make a swordsman. Time and patience and practice.
We haven't really had a stunt for a bit. Time for a chandelier.
One cannot expect to acquire overnight what others have learned only by years of endeavor. For instance, the double 1, 2, 3. The bind triplet. The feint of disengagement, coupé. The feint of disengagement, couplet, and...
From this exchange, I hope fans of The Princess Bride can see where they got the idea.
You're using Bonetti's defense against me, huh?
I thought it fitting, considering the rocky terrain.
Naturally. You must expect me to attack with Capafero.
Naturally, but I find that Tybalt cancels out Capafero. Don't you?
Unless the enemy has a study, he's a gripper. Which I have.
And I love it. Things are looking bad for our hero, but Aline appears just as Dumaine is about to strike the fatal blow, and he manages to escape. And then we don't have another sword fight in the movie until he starts dueling as a politician. He duels 3 people, but we only see snippets of 2 of those fights. And those fights are fast and dynamic, and we can see that he's gaining skill as well as a reputation. Which is good, because he's going to need every trick he knows for the final fight.
I assure you, the best is yet to come.
This video is sponsored by me, and everyone hates sponsor spots, so it's literally just me saying, just stab me now, the hardback. Pre-orders are now available, it's coming out in October. Anyway, let's get back to it. And in this one, we start with Dumaine, because now it's personal. You hurt my friend. How dare you? Dumaine is the aggressor for the first phrase, the one lunging, the one putting in the effort, and we can see the strain that it puts on Moreau, but you know what? He's doing alright. Moreau backs up, avoids, parries, all that jazz, until he's forced back into the box. And halfway off the balcony, to much consternation from the audience. Please note the excellent editing here, mixing up short and long shots, close in, far away, and always giving us a clear idea of what's going on. The fight in the hall is one shot, then we cut to the balcony, we cut in to see Moreau's face, a few cuts in closer succession, and then another long shot, letting the crowd reaction noises and the skill of the performers do the work for us as they fight their way through the boxes and then up onto the railing. Moreau, in spite of being the fight's instigator, is really determined at this point to keep that distance between them. They really did this, by the way. There weren't any safety nets, they just got up on the balcony and fought. I would have preferred there to be a safety net, honestly, but look at this, the complexity of this move and then the lunge on a balcony rail. And while Andre gives us a little bit of a fight back, Dumaine is still the one in control. Until stunt time. And this is where Andre begins to hit his stride a little and fight back more aggressively. There are a lot of reasons that this fight is so good. For one, when you have trained performers, you can just have these beautiful long takes where you just let them do their thing. It's a great set with lots of different environments, so we never linger too long in one place. There are a good number of stunts thrown in to break things up, and the impetus of the fight changes several times. It's basically been all Dumaine to this point, but here is where we start to switch things up. Andre is on the offensive, we get a reaction shot from Philippe's parents and another stunt from Dumaine before a long take where Andre is the clear aggressor. He's the one lunging now, and Dumaine retreats back through the box and into the corridor we started in. But maybe that was his plan all along, because as soon as we get back into the corridor, Dumaine takes control of the fight again. They fight all the way down the corridor to the balcony, and while all we see for quite a long time is Andre Moreau's beautiful golden hair bow, I mean, I tried. We see him come in. It's definitely the actor. It's just, you can't see his face for a while. Regardless, there are more shenanigans at the balcony. Aline is terrified, naturally, when Andre climbs over the balcony rail, falls, leaps back over, and then fights around the plant, because we love a small stunt as well as the bigger ones. Changes things up. Keeps things fresh. Again, there is some quite complex sword work happening as they fight around the plant, and there was probably some pretty complicated sword work happening as they fought down the corridor, but It was hidden by Andre's floofy sleeve. Staying with our theme of never lingering in one place too long, we now fight down the stairs. Andre loses his sword, there's the callback, and I just... This section is so perfect, and you will see the echo of it in The Princess Bride, because they used tiny hidden trampolines so that the performers could jump up onto the rocks. And here, the energy of the fight turns again, and Andre Moreau is back in control. Dumaine falls down the stairs, the fight moves into the theatre, and now we're really getting going. The crowd are simultaneously horrified and intrigued, following the fighters around and trying to get out of the way, but it's still kind of a show for them. No? There's a very strong theatrical motif in Scaramouche. I mean, obviously there is. It's named after the Commedia dell'arte character. And we get a continuation of that here. Sure, Andre took off his mask, but that's the guy, that's Scaramouche, yeah, him in the really loud leggings. Through the theatre they go, avoiding audience members, fighting around chairs, fighting in the aisles, and then, when we get to the stage... well, first blood to Andre Moreau. That isn't how things usually go. The horror on Dumaine's face is quite something, and the smile on Moreau's. We also keep cutting back to the women, who are both looking horrified, and to Philippe's parents. I mean, they've lost their son. Are they going to lose their foster son as well? But no. Second cut to Dumaine's other arm. Almost like it's a callback to the way that Dumaine scratched both of Andre's arms the last time they fought. Huh. Now, Dumaine is sweating, but he's got a plan, which is take advantage of his environment, just like he did in their last fight. And so we drop not a chandelier, but sandbags. But the thing is, thematically speaking, the stage is Andre's home turf, and so he knows how to drop the entire backdrop. And Dumaine, now desperate, tries a sword throw, and fails. And now we're echoing their very first fight, where Dumaine says, "Go pick up your sword."
You shall die with it in your hand.
Why don't you come and take it?
And Dumaine is allowed to retrieve his sword and then immediately goes back on the offensive, but nope, and that's 2 more cuts to the expensive waistcoat. Anyway, as you can see, we have now moved backstage, and there is so much here, so many practical things which need to be reset every time. Dumaine is constantly on the run, seeking an edge and not finding one. Andre is relentless, on and on and on. There's this perfect, beautiful stunt with the stairs. I love it so much. And then there are these long, desperate retreats from Dumaine. And here we are. And there are no words. In fact, please note that the only words spoken in the entire fight are when Andre says to Dumaine,
"Why don't you come and take it?"
And so Andre Moreau finds himself with Noel Dumaine, the man who killed Philippe, his foster brother, his best friend, at his mercy, and he doesn't kill him. There's this long, tense moment where they stare at each other, but then...
I could not do it.
Why? Well, you know what? We're about to find out. Philippe's dad is going to tell us.
My father was Armand de Gabrielac.
No. Armand de Gabrielac pretended to be your father. Actually, he was covering an indiscretion of his closest friend, who was your real father.
Well, then who was my father?
Andre, you are the natural son of the late Marquis de Maynes. De Maynes, the father of Noel Dumaine, the man whose life you could not take. You couldn't kill your own brother.
Well, and I have to say, it helps in this moment where they're staring tensely at each other that their eyes are the same color, and there's something at least slightly similar about their faces.
My brother. My tender, loving... Then she is not...
Not your sister.
Such a great sword fight. I mean, to be honest, I found the ending of the movie a little bit disappointing. Yeah, I'm happy that Andre can now marry Aline. She's lovely, and they both seem to like each other very much, and that bit at the end is... that's great. That's a good joke. But Dumaine, what happened with Dumaine? I don't know. I need to know. Regardless, you really can't fault the fighting. There's a reason that The Princess Bride sought to emulate it, there's a reason that people like it so much, there's a reason it's a classic. The ending fight in particular takes place in a fantastic environment which includes so many sub-environments. There are loads of stunts, lots of movement, it looks very dynamic. The actors do real sword fighting moves, they do real fencing, they do doublés and everything, as well as the more standard flashy stage combat stuff, obviously. There are clear stakes and the choreography and the editing are superb. We mix short phrases and long close-ups for the emotions and wide for the action. We mix cramped spaces with long corridors. There are stairs, balconies, backstage, hundreds of props. It's always clear what's happening and to whom. We change up who's in control of the fight several times. And we end with a concrete victory, which is also kind of a cliffhanger. It's just good. It's just good. It's just good the same way that the Mark of Zorro is good. I think this fight is what a lot of fights wish they were, but it does at least partially depend on the film giving you clear stakes and characters that you can root for, and even an antagonist for whom you feel at least a little bit of sympathy. They don't make them like this anymore, and more's the pity, honestly, but I'm glad they made them like this once. And that 30 years later we were still doing homages to it, which did something different, but I think just as good. If you'd like to see my review of the Princess Bride Cliffs of Insanity fight, which owes so much to Scaramouche, that will be over to the side of my face. Or maybe the Mark of Zorro is more your thing? I don't know. And don't forget, if you want a copy of Just Stab Me Now in hardback, you can pre-order that now, and it's coming out in October. Regardless, I will see you soon.